In this video, we're covering RipX by HitNmix. It's a software that specializes in stem separation. Full disclosure, I have been contacted by the company, although I am not sponsored by them, and my opinions are my own. I'm not bought or paid for. So they have improved their software overall, implementing VSTs and other options for MIDI and stuff. Installation is still pretty much the same overall, although I have encountered a lot of issues like reactivating your software can be a little bit finicky. What? And there's no way to install older versions. What the fuck? They have emphasized a new implementation of separating guitar and piano as one of their big improvements, which is great, but there are a lot more things I'm going to be covering in this video as far as issues I have with it. With that being said, let's dive right into this. So RipX, just like previous versions, allow you to implement videos into your session. So I imported a video file of a friend of mine playing a guitar on a beach. And just like before, it separates the audio into different categories, and you can do just like previously, select a piece of the audio and choose a category you want it to be sent to if it's not in the right one. So sometimes they'll have a guitar where a piano should be and vice versa. And you can do that by selecting the audio file and then clicking the little arrow here will send it to that category, and then now it's going to be within that category, and you can do that with all of your audio within the session. There is an interactive help window, although this thing isn't always by default located here. Sometimes it's at the bottom, and this interface is modular, meaning you can move things around, which is super helpful. Although the big problem I have, it seems like a lot of the space on the top bar could be implemented a lot better. This is just my own nitpick and my critique, but a lot of things I would love to see, and I've emphasized before, and I really hope the developers listen to this and take it to heart, is listening to the users and how they utilize it. So from a user standpoint, everything looks great. It looks nice and sleek and really easy to use. However, there are certain functions that I'm not in favor of. Let's just play a little bit of this audio. So sometimes it does still miscategorize different things. I picked that up as a piano, for instance, and the guitar, of course, is almost the entire session, although it doesn't read any of this previous piece as a guitar. Sometimes it gets categorized as a voice. This is actually picking up people in the background, which is interesting. So if you're trying to clean up the audio, this kind of helps solo that stuff out. Percussion is going to be all in your lower frequency, so it's getting like wind and stuff, which is helpful again if you're editing and trying to remove noises. Those are things you don't want. So there's no drums in here. It's picking up the wind again as your drum, and there's no bass, so I'd mute all those categories. And other. So other has guitar in there, and that's something I wouldn't want. So you'd have to kind of go and manually send some of those sounds to specific categories. So that's just small things to kind of nitpick. The big thing that I had an issue with this new version, and again, this is just my honest feedback and opinion, is having this option to hover over things. This window itself, again, the look is sleek. The functionality can be a little tricky because most of the things you need are there. It's just not straightforward on how to access it. Oh, hell no! You can adjust, like previous versions, the vibrato. So let me go into the guitar, and I'm gonna kind of scroll over a bit to a longer section. So another big thing that's kind of annoying that I'm not a big fan of is like the scroll window. Yeah, I would love like keyboard shortcuts that are kind of easier to kind of navigate and see. You can pan over here, but I don't see like an easy way to kind of zoom in and out. If you have your mouse, you can do this, but I would love like a clearer slider to kind of access it. But again, these are just small nitpicks. But the thing that bothered me the most is this hovering thing. So when you hover over a category, I didn't click on anything, it's already activating these things. I don't want to accidentally move sliders around that I didn't intend to use. So I wish this was off by default, and I can actually manipulate this later on. So you can quantize pitches and all that, which is, again, wonderful. It's great to have that as an option. But I don't want to have this just doing things without me intending to do it. Like me hovering over shouldn't activate anything. That's like a huge design flaw in my eyes and for how I would use this thing. And again, there's different ways I would kind of maneuver some of these things around, because they do have this wonderful option down here for presets, and again, it's doing the hovering thing, which I don't want to do. So there's presets for, let's see, what is this? We have for fading in a preset. We have a preset for some kind of vibrato thing. And reverb, let's see. If I select that, it's gonna exaggerate these. Okay, that doesn't sound great to me, but for me, if you were to take this, and again, there's so much wasted space here. If there's presets, say you want to, you know, fiddle with compression or, you know, dynamics, say there's by category, right? If I chose my drums, and that'd be wonderful if there's like a set of presets that pop up over here for, you know, drums specifically. You know, you'd want to have some kind of EQ, some kind of compression, some kind of reverb, possibly, and have that as my preset category that pops up. And if I choose voice, you know, defaults for voice. If I choose bass, defaults for bass, that would pop up in preset categories. That would be wonderful, but it's not implemented just yet. And again, these things are modular, which is wonderful. You can move things around, but if you're not intending to move things, and sometimes can get lost with this stuff. And like, there's other categories in here I didn't even know about until you start scrolling, which aren't very clear that they're there until you start moving things around again. So if I were to move this little section, now I can see there's more categories. I wish that wasn't a thing, and if I just clicked a section, this would open up automatically. I don't want to have it hidden underneath things where I can't see it directly, if that makes sense. There's chord options, which they had previously before. Just to show you how kind of straightforward version 5.1.1 was versus the version 6 or whatever the most current one is at the time of this video. Here was version 5. I drag and drop the same video in. Used to be able to click the name of it, and I highlighted all the sounds that were in correlation with that name. The video info, your little info section popped up. Whatever I'm hovering over was telling me what it was doing, which was interesting because it'd be cool if that alone was just able something to, you know, be able to resize, whatever. That would have been great. But anyway, it was just a lot more straightforward. I can click a section, and you know, there's no kind of drums or anything, but it was just so much more straightforward where I can just click a piece and then I can pan things from that, and then from here you can adjust the stereo. Like, it was just so much more streamlined. I don't know why they went away from this. To create a harmony, you'd go to your top category here, and boom, you had all your options were straightforward straight here. You had the harmonies right there. I can click it and then create my harmony. So I select my audio file, for instance. I can say, hey, it's not moving anything while I'm hovering over it. It won't do anything until I click it. So now I can create my harmonies. I can go up, I can go down. No, it was just super straightforward in the older version, and I really wish they didn't move away so far from it. But anyway, yeah, this was the old version, and I wish they kept some of these things. So let's dive back to the new one and keep going. And this is the thing that I kind of got frustrated with, because it's not very clear just looking at this interface. There's nothing here that tells you there's two separate things, right? So you have an option for chord. So as you see, I'm moving the slider up and down. I'll pick a different piece of this. Let's just highlight this right here. So as again, just hovering, I haven't clicked anything, it's moving sliders, which I don't want. But it had this previously where you're able to create these different harmonies and stuff playing around with chords. This is what I was looking for before. So I can slide this over, and it's going to make these harmonies, which is great. It can move up an octave, down an octave. But to the right of that, you have an option to adjust the volume of these different chords it creates, which is great. Again, wonderful. But I wish I had another category to adjust the panning of the chords it creates, the vibrato of the chords it creates. Those are things I want to see. I don't care about this little modular, little cutesy looking thing. I want the functionality to actually be useful for me, you know? That's just, again, my personal opinion. Other people may think differently. Those are some of the things that were bothering me about this. And I have another example here. So this is a song called Here From Afar, and this is an example where I would want to make a harmony, but again, this thing's just sliding all over the place. I wish there was a preset for specific things. Again, like, all right, I know this is a voice, I want to play around with, you know, reverb and stuff. They don't have that necessarily as a category. And then they have options to implement different, like, this is confusing where it's its own under time selection note. It has the same kind of thing as like this presets selection note, so you can play around with reverb and things as well in this area. So for me, like, these two I feel can be combined somehow, so it's just less clutter on the right side, or again, this is modular so you can move it around, but just less clutter overall. And I hate that it hovers and just does things. But yes, overall, I think the algorithm has been improved. Whatever they did under the hood, it does separate things a lot smoother, and you are able to do quite a lot of the things that I loved. The drums, for instance, let's give a different song for another example here. So here's the same song, but a remix I did for it. The drums for this are a lot more clear to see in previous versions. They used to be at the very bottom here, and it was really hard to see things. I still don't know why these are all the way at the bottom. You have your percussion, so instead of saying snare, this is also... It's interesting how it's separated. But anyway, I just wish these were moved up a little further, because it really doesn't make sense for them to be buried at the bottom. And you have all this real estate to use. And they always have done a really good job at separating bass, and a pretty good job at separating the voice. There are other softwares out there that do this. I've talked about that in previous videos. Like, you have Isotope RX is a really popular one. This is a lot more affordable. So if you're looking into creating stems, I would say this would probably be the best option for that. There's a lot of free apps online that do similar things. Again, I've covered that in previous videos, although this one just specializes just in creating stems. They have tried to implement these different loops, which are great if you're into that kind of production. Again, these sliders are so confusing. Yeah, like they try to implement this kind of like how FL Studio has a thing where it tells you what's happening here, but it's still a little clunky to me. So I'm just looking at the loops and stuff that they have here and how I can actually implement these. Oh, I don't like that at all. Okay. So I guess you can drag and drop this drum loop and kind of time stretch it. Still seems a little funny to me. So another thing I wanted to say, because we are dealing with audio and treating it like MIDI, it'd be wonderful, because the premise is here, the functionality seems like it could be there, but they don't seem to have that here, is if I wanted to swap out a specific instrument, for instance, like a guitar or bass or something. So in mine, it's more of a synth, whatever, but that'd be cool if you had all your your instrumentation options here, again, under like your presets, right? And I would call it something like, instrument swap or stem swap or something like that, right? Where you choose your sound, and if I wanted to make this a trumpet or something, and you'd be able to choose the trumpet, and it will swap out essentially your audio for that trumpet. I mean, they have this for similar programs for like drum replacement. There's all kinds of versions that do that kind of stuff, and I've talked about this again in previous videos, but it'd be cool to have that as an option. Because we are treating the audio like MIDI, it'd be wonderful to have that option to be able to select an audio clip and swap it out with a different audio source and have it replace it and keep that same rhythm and melody as though it's MIDI, even though it's audio files. But anyway, that's a very quick review of this thing. I wanted to also cover some of the editing, which again, I believe you can do some of this cleanup stuff. I'll go back to my guitar example here. It'd be wonderful if it was a lot easier to kind of just get rid of background noise, and I know that they say you can, and like I guess to a degree you can, but this just looks so clunky to me. Like, this does not look streamlined at all. Like, you have Adobe Audition, which makes it super clear. In your editing, you can paint out sounds and stuff. You can do this in Isotope RX, same idea. You can paint out your sounds and select noises to remove. This is very clunky. I don't like, if you're brand new to using this DAW, you're gonna be lost. It just is what it is, and I hate that they're kind of cherry picked, not to knock the company, but they kind of are cherry picking some of the review videos they have, and everything's all, you know, fine and dandy, but honestly, like, there's some stuff that needs some work, and this is what this review is. It's just my opinion on it, but I feel like there's areas that could be a little stronger as far as how to utilize some of these tools and space that you have on your app. But I wish the interface for cleaning stuff up was a lot clearer and have a whole separate category. I'm thinking something similar along the lines of like DaVinci Resolve, how you have your different categories, so you can have your production section and you can have something specifically for audio cleanup. If you're gonna have all the space at the top, that'd be, you know, you can have it at the top bar here, like your production section and your audio cleanup section, and have all the tools that you would need for audio cleanup and nothing else, and that's just that section. But again, just my opinion. Overall, software's fantastic for what it's meant to do for separating stems. The functionality needs a lot of work. The interface looks very sleek. The usability is not super clear for beginners. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this review, and I'll talk to you soon with the next one.